Welcome to the Pen Leader Podcast, where strategic leaders get straight to the topics, strengthening our awareness and sharpening our minds. The Pen Leader Podcast is produced by Roar, a production division of Mays & Associates Ltd. Find out more at www.maysassociatesltd.com. Now here is your award-winning host, Dr. Shanda Gore.
Welcome to the Pen Leader Podcast. Today's episode is called Staying Grounded in the Spotlight. And I am so excited to have with me today Miss Kristian Brown. And she is an award-winning journalist, an evening news anchor with a passion for storytelling that informs, uplifts, and connects communities. Kristian is deeply committed to mentorship, community service, and empowering women to live with intention and confidence. She openly shares her journey around growth, wellness, and alignment. Kristian's work is rooted in purpose, presence, and progress, not perfection. And she's dedicated to using her voice to inspire others to lead, evolve, and stand firmly in who they are becoming. And so, without further ado, I could say so much more. Here is Miss Kristian Brown. Hi, Kristian.
Hi, Dr. Gore. How are you? Thanks so
I
much
am
for having me. I'm excited to be here today.
I'm so glad. I think about history of how long you've been doing the work that you've been doing as an anchor and out in the community. I've had you involved in a number of events and how you bring that presence and just how you bring that professionalism to it. So I am so glad to have you on the show today.
Thank you
Yes.
so much. Glad to be here.
So you are celebrating 20 years with 13 ABC, which is the ABC affiliate and in the Toledo area. What has kept you grounded and motivated over such a long and evolving career?
Well, I'll say what keeps me grounded is remembering that this job isn't about me. It's a lot about service. I've always seen myself as a guest in your home, right? You get the choice of, turning that, well, they don't turn the dials anymore, or having the remote in your hand and making that choice. And so that keeps me grounded. And my motivation is my purpose, knowing that what we do matters and affects a lot of people, and some people on their hardest days. So that keeps me showing up with integrity, being grateful and committed to the work. And then I've also learned how to stay rooted on the things outside of work, which I think creates that balance, my family, my faith, and my community. And also, I keep in mind this is what balances me the most is that my career is not my identity.
Ah,
It is not everything that I am. What it does, it allows me to be in my divine assignment, to work out the missions of the day with my divine assignment, but it isn't my entire divine assignment. Do you understand what I'm saying when I say that?
I
So
do. I
that
do.
keeps me grounded because I do believe that God can use anybody at any given time to do any given thing. But He's chosen me to be here, and I live every day with intention to make sure that I'm walking out that purpose, if that makes
Hmm.
sense.
It does. I think our greatest leaders walk with intention and purpose. They don't really happenstance their life and just, oh, now this is happening to me. Oh, this is happening to me. There is things that happen, but there's also the intentionality of placing yourself in the right position for whatever that purpose is.
Absolutely. Walking clueless sometimes, but it keeps you on home base.
It does. It does. It does. So broadcast news, it moves very quickly. How have you adapted over the years without really losing yourself professionally? Because this is a field that does have a high turnover, and you have been again passionately doing great work in this field and successfully. So can you talk about that?
Yes, I've learned to separate the tools from the values because as you well know, platforms continue to change. Technology, it's hard to even keep up with all the changes in technology, but integrity, empathy, and preparation, they're unmatched. They don't change, right? So I adapt, I stay curious, even in setting up this podcast, I leaned on the knowledge of some of our younger staffers to make sure I knew what I was doing, right? You learn from the younger journalists.
Yes.
So, but I don't chase trends at the expense of trust. So I find that if you stay anchored in your values, no matter the technology, no matter the platform, you're going to be just fine.
hmm So true. And you know what? That comes to like again that public facing area. Can you talk about what that looks like with being that public facing role? What responsibility do you feel when you have that role?
It's a lot of responsibility because I believe that trust is sacred when people turn to you daily for answers or news or breaking news, anything like that. So it's sacred and it can make you feel, telling the truth can make you feel uncomfortable at times, but we have to do that. We have to be calm during, chaos. We have to have compassion during conflict, and we have to be accountable when we make mistakes. So it's nothing that I take lightly. Um, and I feel like the community has done a good job of letting me know they trust me.
Yes.
I can be in the middle of the chip aisle at Kroger and they'll say, Kristian Brown, can we take a picture? And sometimes people say, Do you get sick of that? And I'm like, no, because to me, they trust me and I'm appreciative of that, that they even know my name, right? And
hmm
they've turned to me for so many years. So it is a lot of responsibility, but I'm blessed to have that responsibility.
hmm You know, the leaders that are really listening and watching the show, what advice would you give, especially when we're talking about that public facing and you've been faced with challenges too. How do you keep that going and still lead? Because people are looking, they're leaning into whatever you say.
Right.
Bec right? So what do you
100%.
advise? What do you
Well,
advise?
there have been plenty of times when the pressure is heavy and the expectations are high, especially during seasons of personal growth or even, the changes that you go into your life personally, whether it's having a child, things change, the dynamics of your life changes. But I think that the best thing that you can do is to just be quiet, sit still, and lean into that inner voice instead of the outside noise. And in those moments, I remind myself, okay, why did I start doing this? Oh, yeah, that's right, to make a difference, right? And so when I'm in those places and phases, I lean on mentors. We were talking earlier about the fact that I have a lot of mentees, but that's because I had a lot of mentors, right? And so I lean on them, I lean on my family, I pray, and I do a lot of self-assessment. And I give myself permission to evolve even in those moments.
Mhm,
So it just means growing where you are.
mhm. Taking that time, I think
Mhm.
back of just your growth and also, too, there are individuals that, unfortunately, I remember some of your predecessors that are well-known anchors that said, it's amazing you're telling important information, but there, someone at home is actually caught up in your appearance and not necessarily the value of what you're adding to what you're telling people. And I think about
Mhm.
messaging and what how to deliver it. Is there a time and what advice would you give for any leader who's attempting to deliver an important message? How would you suggest, especially if others are really caught up in other things that are not as important as the message?
There have been so many times I post something on Facebook and it has such great intention, but everyone just wants to hone in on your hair is cute. Or da, da, da. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I just like dropped a nugget and you guys missed it. But some people will catch it. I think that if you're trying to message something and it's very important, what do?
hmm
We make sure that there's nothing in our appearance that could be distracting, right? So today I'm like, I'm not going to wear dangly earrings. I'm going to wear pearls, right? If it's a serious message, I have on black and white today. Maybe I just wear black, right? I keep my hair,
hmm
out of my face. And I wear my glasses because I'm at the age where if I don't, reading can be an issue, right?
That's
But
right.
it's just those small things that, anytime you see something new or someone new, you can't help but to look at them. And you might look at a bracelet. I know I'm like that. I love a good bracelet, even though I don't wear bracelets, but I just love a good bracelet. So I think that my goal is to make sure that my first sentence out of my mouth grips you to where now you're not even interested in my side part, my glasses or my makeup. And that's how to me, in the news industry, we tell good stories. We aim for the heart. And if you aim for the heart, all the other things that are noisy in our brain will settle. And then you can get your audience to pay attention to what you have to say.
So, for leaders out there, I will say this, especially if you're delivering a message, the most powerful messages are delivered also with a story. And I think you do so well with weaving in good stories and that are tied to topic areas that people care about. They want to know. They're tuning into the news. There's a reason why they're listening. They're either listening for something in particular or they're just, again, what's going on in the world? What's going on in my local area? And so, for those that are delivering messages to their organizations and they have to stand at a podium and they have to make sure to pull attention, the greatest leaders I know are pulling in their stories and they're sharing those stories because, to your point, there's an emotional tie to many. It makes it personable.
Hmm.
And I think you do.
I've had the pleasure of writing speeches for people, and I don't talk about this, but that is how I write. I love to write, right? So when I'm writing a news copy, I have to keep all the facts in mind. But then when I'm writing a speech for someone and I know what our intention and our goal is, it allows me to use my creativity in another way. And I always say, if you're going to tell a story, it it needs to aim for the heart immediately. I
Yes.
remember giving a speech to young people, and some of these kids, this is years and years and years ago, and this is how I learned this. There were kids who were in the foster care system. And, I didn't tell anybody that I too was in the foster care system, 10 different foster homes before the age of 2. And so, but for whatever reason, and this is how God works, they chose me to give a speech. And I'm like, okay, I had to have been like in my 20s. So I literally started this speech off with my mother left me in a high chair for 2 days so she could get high. Do you think I had to fight with them about their attention? You could hear
No.
a pin drop. But that's what I mean about being, authentic and aiming for the heart. If you are entrusted with a message, for a reason you have this message. How can you connect to the story and tell it to me and make me care and move me and create change? If that
Mm-hmm.
makes sense. And
Yes.
that's what I've always done, and that's what I'll continue to do, because I know that with everybody always scrolling their phones and TikToks, everything is so quick. So people
Yes.
don't even have the attention span anymore like they used to, right?
No,
So if
no.
you aim for the heart, you can then they'll listen, and then they won't really worry about what you have on your hair and everything else like that, because you've touched me here, if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense. Yeah.
Yes, it does. I think about that leaning in, that story you want to hear. Well, they see you now and they hear about this little girl that was trapped in a high chair for 2 days. And picturing
Exactly.
what did it take from there to where you are now? There's a whole story, a number of stories that are in there. And I always tell individuals too, they also have stories in them. Now, if they choose to tell them, that's their own. It's their own story. I do say to leaders, be careful not to allow someone to tell your story, especially when it's not your story and they've expanded on something. It's not, as you said, authentic.
Right.
And I mean, this goes to the root of what we're talking about, staying grounded, right?
Mm-hmm. 100%. And I just felt like I'm giving this message. These kids are looking at me like, oh, she's on television. Look at her hair. Look at her. And I wanted them to know in that moment, the only difference between where I stand and where you sit are a string of decisions. And
Mm,
you can make those decisions. Do you understand? And so, it was incredible. It was probably one of the best speeches. And I have you ever given a speech and just felt like you blacked out? It was kind of like that. It was kind of because it was just so raw and authentic. And when it was over, I must have hugged about 20 young girls, right?
aw, yes.
Um, because that I wanted to plant that seed that it's not how you start, it's how you finish.
There you go.
So yeah, it was a great day. It
And
was a
was
great
it
day.
at your alma mater? Was that at your
Now I've given leadership talks at my alma mater, and those have been fantastic. This was not. I want to. This was so long ago. So now we're leaning on my perimenopausal memory, right? But I want to say it had something to do with the guy that was in Leadership Toledo, and I don't remember specifics as to how he was able to get all of these kids. And I want to say it was at a school, and it was
Mm-hmm.
just kind of like everybody's kind of just like encouraging them. And then I was just like
Yes.
the main speaker, and I just showed up and was just, and just tried to pour into them, you know what I mean? And so,
Yes.
yeah. But I gave a leadership talk at St. Ursula Academy here in Toledo. That's my alma mater, all girls school. And that is what that's what enlightened me, like, okay, this is my gift, because I took a quick leadership talk about being a leader and turned it into, why do we care what's on the girl next to you's page? Like, why are we comparing? Because these are young girls, and young girls, if there's two young girls, they're being compared. But if you're not comparing yourself and you know that you have a God-given assignment that looks nothing like the girl next to you, now you can empower her. And now she can empower you because you have your own lanes. And together you can build each other up, have each other's back, and do more good together than you would if you were jealous. Does that make sense when we're talking to high school kids?
Oh, yes.
And
Yes.
so,
Yes.
yeah, it was
Yes.
great. It was a great talk. It was a great talk.
It's funny. We're talking about high school, and for the leaders listening, this also goes, is applicable for organizations, cliques within organizations. There has been decisions made not based on salary or even opportunity, but how people are treated within the organization. And
Mhm.
so having this conversation is also very important for those HR professionals who are listening and wondering, how can I talk and address culture? Well, if you can get the culture to listen to messaging and not get caught up with some of the other things that actually are not relevant to the job you're doing, or, again, to the work you're outputting, or to the organization itself, it's not even fitting in the mission. I have not come across a mission or a vision statement that is caught up in what people are wearing, not the
Correct.
vision and the mission statement. Sure, you have rules, but there's mission and vision on, like, where are you going, how are you getting there, and do you have the right talent that can do the job? And that's a key part of leadership.
Yeah, I
So
agree.
I got to ask you this, because you are so busy and you're doing so much. What are you reading and what are you watching? What are you reading and what are you watching?
Okay, so I am okay. I'm not reading anything, which I should be. I have seasons where I read, and it's usually spring and summer when I'm the happiest, right? And I'll listen to audiobooks and do 3 miles a day. That's what I did last summer, and I enjoyed every minute of it. I'll say now I'll go into YouTube and I will pick a subject, and then I'll delve into that. And right now I am into how the brain works in neuroscience. I
Okay.
know. It is, I'm very passionate about learning it. I would tell you a lot, except I'm still in the learning phases of your brain and how we're wired and your subconscious and why we do things. And I will say, going down the rabbit hole of this has created such tremendous growth for me in the last year, recognizing why I do the things that I do, say the things that I say, and have had loops of like, I'm going to do this, but then I don't. Oh, I'm going to do this, but then I don't. You know what I'm and it's helped me rewire my brain and to see what's in the room with me, whether it's trauma, whether it's issues oh, this is why I say this, or this is why I do this. Okay, I've recognized it. I see it in the room, I honor it, and now we're going to change it. And we're going to
Mm.
change it by doing what we say we're going to do because I need to trust me, right? So, that is what I've been listening to about your brain and its safety and that fight or flight and how we're really okay and just talking to myself in a positive way. And if we would talk to ourselves like we would talk to our besties, we would be so good
We would
in
be
every
so much
portion of
better
our
off.
life. It's
Yes.
that gentleness, that you're doing good. I tell myself that I'm doing okay at least 5 or 6 times a day now, because I am in a environment where everything is always loud because it's a newsroom. So we're hearing
Hmm.
scanners, everyone's yelling, there's a press conference, there's breaking news, there's people have been shot. It's always where I can't like I'm functioning, but I'm not tapped in how I'm really feeling about everything and digesting things like I should be. And so in order for me to understand, okay, this is uncomfortable, but we're okay. So I can keep moving on with my tasks and going about my day. And then at the end of the day, I can say, okay, let's unpack some of this so we can move in tomorrow on a clean slate, if that makes any sense.
Well, I'll tell you, for those that are interested in that science of neuros and how they work, I would recommend it too, because it is a fascinating subject to me as well, as I'm trying to figure out why I say and do what I do, as well as others, and why do individuals gravitate, especially in families, toward doing certain things that
Yes.
and they don't even realize their relative is doing it, but they're doing it as well. You say, now there's family, they're related. It might be
Yes.
the way they walk or the way they hold their head, but it's definitely, I mean, DNA is very powerful.
It really, really is. I could dive really deep, but I'm like, man, this is some PhD kind of stuff. I don't know if I can, but it's so interesting. It's so
Yes.
interesting. And I think it makes you more compassionate for you and others, knowing that everybody is fighting a different battle that we know nothing about,
Know
right?
nothing about. That's
Yeah.
right. Well, I can't thank you enough for your time coming on the show, and
Oh,
that's
it
just
was so
seeing you
great
again.
talking to you.
Yes, yes. And
Thank
you
you
know
so
what?
much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you. And, we'd like to thank our listeners who are sharing the show and liking it. We so appreciate you. And we appreciate our sponsors. For all your home, auto, and life insurance needs, contact Brian Davis. He's a great sponsor. Like a good neighbor, Brian is there. And we also like to thank J. Foster Jewelers, his family owned, offering the finest natural gemstones, stunning engagement rings, and brilliant diamonds. And of course, until next time.
The Pen Leader podcast is hosted by Dr. Shanda Gore and brought to you by Mays & Associates Ltd, creating customized solutions for growth in the areas of leadership development, strategic planning, and culture building. Find out more at www.maysassociatesltd.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the Pen Leader podcast and share with others.